Okay, so we're diving into some dating dynamics today. We're going to be unpacking this conversation from 456.txt. And, well, this speaker doesn't really hold back.
Yeah, this is definitely a spicy one.
He kind of just jumps right in with both feet, like dating's a battlefield.
Yeah, he's coming in hot.
Forget the rose-colored glasses kind of thing.
Yeah, and he doesn't pull any punches right off the bat. Like, he calls people losers right out of the gate. So he's not really sugarcoating anything.
Yeah, it's like, should we be this direct? But is there something to that? Like, is there a method to this madness?
Right, because on the one hand, it's like, whoa, that's a little harsh.
Yeah.
But I think if we kind of look past the bravado for a second, there might be a point here about, self-improvement. Like, he seems to be pushing this idea that to succeed in dating, men need to be, like, at the top of their game.
So less about putting other people down and more about this need to be like your best self. But it makes you wonder, like, what is driving this need for constant optimization? Is it really all about attracting a partner? Or does it say something about societal expectations for men?
That's the big question, isn't it? And he throws out all these qualities like looks, humor, wealth, intelligence, like the whole 9 yards. It's almost like he's created this checklist for the ideal man,
Right.
which honestly leaves very little room for like vulnerability or imperfection,
It's like you got to be perfect.
Right. And to really hammer home this point, he uses this analogy of a race car versus like a bicycle.
Oh, yeah. Like, if you're not a Ferrari in this dating Grand Prix, you might as well just stay parked.
Yeah, I remember that.
Exactly. It's a strong image.
Very effective.
And I get how some guys would find that motivating.
Sure.
But it also feels like, I don't know, it could create a lot of pressure for men to live up to this impossible standard.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
So is this emphasis on competition ultimately helpful or harmful?
Well, I think it's probably a bit of both. I mean, on the one hand, I think striving for self-improvement is generally a good thing. But when it becomes solely about winning the dating game,
Yeah.
it can be detrimental.
Right.
It can lead to insecurity, unhealthy comparisons, a fear of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And those are not exactly qualities that foster genuine connection, are they?
No, not really. It's like he's almost overlooking the human element of it all.
Yeah.
Like attraction, it's more than just checking off boxes on a list.
It's not just a formula.
Right.
It's about connecting with someone.
Exactly.
Right.
And speaking of attraction, the conversation takes an interesting turn when he starts talking about what he thinks women are looking for.
Oh, boy.
And this is where things get a little complicated.
Okay, this should be good.
Because he says that women are drawn to, get this, stability, A&D drama.
Wait, so which one is it?
I know, right? You'd think those two things would cancel each other out.
Right, like, are we talking about a steady Eddie or a roller coaster?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a head scratcher.
Right. It's like he's saying women want a knight in shining armor who can also keep them on the edge of their seats.
So basically a superhero with commitment issues.
Maybe. But is he saying that these things can actually coexist? Or is this a recipe for relationship disaster?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on how you define those terms. Like, what does drama really mean in this context?
Yeah.
Because he goes on to describe this, like, mythical, all-encompassing man. Someone who can fix any problem, provide a sense of security, but also bring this, like, unpredictable energy to the relationship.
So like a handyman with a wild side.
Basically, yeah. But seriously, though, it's a pretty tall order.
It is a lot to ask. And to make things even more interesting, he brings up reality TV as an example, specifically the Kardashians.
Ah, yes, the Kardashians, the epitome of subtlety and restraint.
Right.
I can see where he's going with this.
So he's basically saying that their brand of chaotic relationships is what women find appealing.
I wouldn't go that far. I think it's a bit of a generalization. To say that reality TV dictates an entire gender's relationship preferences, like, come on.
Right, it's a little reductive. It's like he's saying, if you want to understand women, just watch an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians and you'll have it all figured out.
Exactly. As if it were that simple.
Like a how-to guide or something.
Right. But the thing is, people are complex. And to say that one show or even one family represents the desires and values of an entire gender, it just doesn't hold water.
It ignores all the nuances.
Exactly.
And I feel like this oversimplification leads to some questionable assumptions.
Like what?
Well, like his belief about what happens when a woman doesn't get enough excitement in her relationship.
Oh, here we go.
Right. Like he actually says that if a woman isn't getting her drama fix from her partner, she'll inevitably look for it elsewhere.
Wow. So basically, if a woman isn't constantly on an emotional roller coaster, the relationship is doomed.
That's what he seems to be implying. It's
Yeah.
pretty fatalistic.
Yeah, it doesn't leave much room for growth or understanding, does it?
Not really.
It's like he's saying excitement and stability are mutually exclusive, and that women can't be trusted to find fulfillment within a healthy partnership.
Which is kind of a cynical view of relationships, if you ask me.
It is a little disheartening.
It really makes you question how we view relationships. And the dynamics between men and women,
It's a lot to unpack.
it is. But that's why we're here, right?
Exactly. To delve into these complex and often uncomfortable truths.
And hopefully gain a little more understanding along the way.
Absolutely.
So this whole thing about women needing drama is a bit extreme.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
But it seems like this kind of ties into another point he makes about a woman's attraction fading if a man can't fix her problems.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's like he's saying relationships are all about excitement and D being a handyman.
Right. Like you're supposed to be this constant source of both thrills and home repairs.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
And it sets up some pretty unrealistic expectations.
Totally. And it also plays into this idea of women as damsels in distress, always needing a knight in shining armor to come and save the day.
Oh, absolutely. It's like something out of a fairy tale.
Exactly. Like, where's the agency? Where's the idea that women can be strong and capable and solve their own problems?
Right. In a healthy relationship, it's not about one person constantly fixing the other. It's about supporting each other's growth and facing challenges as a team.
Exactly. And you know what else? I actually get where he's coming from about wanting a relationship that's exciting,
Okay, I'm on this.
but it's not about actively seeking out drama.
No, definitely not.
It's more about that spark, that sense of adventure.
I like where you're going with this.
Right. You don't want things to get boring.
No, you need that little something to keep the relationship feeling fresh.
Exactly.
And that's something you cultivate together. It's not about waiting for drama to just fall into your lap.
It's about creating those moments of excitement and connection.
Precisely.
So how do we do that?
Well, for starters, you need to find someone who challenges you.
Okay, someone who keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, and constantly reminds you why you fell in love in the first place.
But you don't need to manufacture drama for that.
No, not at all.
It can be as simple as like trying new things together, traveling to new places.
Or even just making an effort to keep the romance alive in everyday life.
Right, like remembering to do those small gestures.
Exactly.
It's about putting in the effort.
It is.
But speaking of effort, there's this other thing he says that I wanted to circle back to.
What's that?
Remember how he kept bringing up the Kardashians?
Oh, yeah. His favorite topic.
He spent all this time talking about them. Like they were this prime example of what he thinks women find attractive.
Right, with all the drama and chaos.
Exactly. But then he throws in this random comment about how he would never date a Kardashian.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. It was a bit out of left field.
Like, what's the deal with that?
I think it's all about perception.
How so?
Well, on the one hand, he's using the Kardashians to represent this over-the-top drama, which he claims is what women are drawn to.
But then he wants to distance himself from that image.
Exactly. It's like he's trying to have it both ways.
So it's less about the Kardashians themselves and more about what they represent.
I think so. He's trying to position himself as the opposite of that kind of manufactured drama.
So like the anti-Kardashian dating ideal.
Exactly. It's all very strategic.
It is interesting when you think about it that way.
Right.
It's all about crafting this persona.
Yeah, presenting yourself as the ideal partner.
Yeah.
The antidote to all the chaos.
Very clever,
Yeah.
but also a little manipulative.
Maybe just a tad.
But hey, it's the dating game, right?
I guess so.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about competition, unrealistic expectations, the Kardashians.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. But before we wrap things up, I want to take a step back for a second
Okay, sounds good.
and think about what we've learned from all of this.
Yeah,
Because even though this guy has some pretty out there views,
to say the least.
I think there are some valuable takeaways here. So we've dissected this guy's dating philosophy.
We really went there.
We did. But now I'm curious, what do we take away from all of this?
Yeah, is there any actual wisdom to be gleaned here?
Like, even if you totally disagree with his approach,
Right, even if you think he's completely off base.
is there anything we can learn from this?
I think so.
Okay, I'm listening.
Because even though his delivery is, let's just say, a little rough around the edges,
And his views are a tad extreme.
yeah, I think there are some valuable nuggets in there.
Okay, so what kind of nuggets are we talking about?
Well, let's start with self-improvement. He's clearly a big advocate for it.
Right, like to an almost obsessive degree.
Right, but even if we dial it back a bit, the core message is still valid.
Which is?
That striving to be the best version of yourself is never a bad thing.
Okay, that's fair.
Whether you're single in a relationship or just navigating life in general. Personal growth is important.
Total.
And I think that ties into his whole thing about desirable qualities.
Oh, yeah, like the looks, the humor, the wealth.
Right. And while that might seem superficial, I think it speaks to a deeper desire for someone who is, I don't know, confident, well-rounded. Someone who brings something to the table.
So it's less about checking off boxes and more about cultivating those qualities that make you feel good about yourself.
Exactly.
Because when you feel good about yourself, that confidence naturally makes you more attractive to others.
100%.
Now, about that whole drama thing.
Oh boy, here we go.
I mean, I get it. Nobody wants a relationship that's boring.
Right.
But his take on it was a little much.
A little extreme for sure.
But maybe what he was trying to say is that excitement and novelty are important in a relationship.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
It's not about seeking out drama for drama's sake.
No, definitely not.
It's about finding someone who challenges you intellectually, keeps you on your toes.
Someone who constantly reminds you why you fell in love in the first place.
Right. And you don't need external sources of drama for that. It can be as simple as trying new things together.
Exactly.
Or even just making an effort to keep the romance alive, like those little gestures and date nights and stuff.
Absolutely. It's about putting in the effort to keep things fresh.
So it all comes back to connection.
Always.
Finding that person who challenges you, excites you.
And who you can share those new experiences with.
Without the unnecessary drama.
Exactly.
Well, this has been quite the deep dive.
To say the least.
I feel like we've learned a lot.
Me too.
Even if we don't necessarily agree with everything we've heard.
Sometimes it's good to challenge our perspectives.
Exactly. And I think this conversation has definitely done that.
It's given us a lot to think about.
So to everyone listening, whether you're navigating the dating world or just looking for some food for thought, remember this. Focus on being your best self. Find someone who both challenges and excites you, and don't be afraid to embrace a little adventure along the way.
Words to live by.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us today.